stuff to do with this guy. Okay, cool. So you're defending theism, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So anywho, with that being said, what do you define God to be?
I say God to be an absolutely simple, purely actual and subsistent existent being.
And what do you mean by a purely actual being?
By purely actual, I just mean that he has no passive potency.
And what do you mean by passive potencies?
By passive potency, I just mean some intrinsic potential that could be actualized in a being.
Some intrinsic potential that can be actualized.
Yeah, that could intrinsically be
Okay.
actualized.
And you're saying God lacks this sort of like intrinsic potential.
Yes.
So, when you say intrinsic potential, what does this mean?
Yeah, so by intrinsic potential, I just mean that it's some potentiality that's true of the being, that's true of the substance that could be actualized in the substance.
Okay, so it's potentiality that is true of the being that can be actualized.
Yes. Well, passive potentiality.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, anywho, do you believe that God is omnipotent?
Yes, I do believe that God is omnipotent.
Okay. And by omnipotence, what do you mean by omnipotence?
That he's able to actualize any metaphysically possible state of affairs.
Okay. Cool. And what do you use to determine metaphysical possibilities?
By metaphysical possibility, all I mean is just that X is metaphysically possible if and only if X doesn't entail some metaphysical contradiction.
Okay, and what's the distinction between metaphysical contradiction and the logical contradiction?
Well, a distinction given between a logical contradiction and metaphysical contradiction could just be the water and H2O example. So it's metaphysically impossible for water to be H3O, but it's not logically impossible for water to be H3O. This is no logical contradiction.
Okay. So hold on there a second. How is it metaphysically impossible for water to not be H2O?
Because water by its very essence is H2O. It's just identical to this.
What do you mean by essence, by its very essence? What does essence mean?
By its nature. By its meaning, by what it is.
And how are you determining the nature of a given object?
By how we determine the nature of an object would just be the property it has, the quality it has, and what we can abstract from the being in question.
So, under that view, all things that are actual are metaphysically necessary.
That doesn't make any sense. No.
Because it is the case that you're determining the nature of an object based off the properties it possesses. And so if that is the case, then clearly it has to be true that if an object possesses a given property, then it has to be the nature of that object. And so it's the essence of that object. And if it does not have this property, then there's a metaphysical contradiction. And thus it is metaphysically impossible.
Well, we'd obviously make a distinction between properties essential to the nature and properties not essential to the nature.
No, you can't make this distinction though, because you're determining essence based off nature and nature based off properties of an object. So by definition, essence under your view, which are the essential qualities of an object, is quite simply just the properties that the subject possess. That's it. You said specifically that the reason why it's metaphysically impossible for water to not be H2O is because given its nature, it is H2O. I ask you, what is a nature? You said it's the essence of an object. I ask you, what do you use to determine the essence of an object? You said specifically that what you use to determine the essence of an object are the properties you can abstract from said object. So all that means is simply that for any actual fact of an object, whether it's contingent or not, because it is able to be abstracted from an object, it is going to be something which determines the nature of this object. And so it's not possible for this object, metaphysically speaking, this property. And so under your own worldview, all the actual facts of an object is metaphysically necessary, which contradicts your initial thesis. Anything else? Because your whole concept of metaphysical possibility is flawed. The reason why I ask you all of these questions is because I know for a fact you don't know what you're talking about, right? So the moment I just break down the semantics, you're going to either result in, like, your position is going to entail a contradiction or some unintuitive concept. And you're just going to fuck yourself over.
I don't know what that nigga just said, but get that bread.
So your notion of metaphysical possibility literally entails that all things which are actual are metaphysically necessary.
Yo, the guy's living
That's all it
in VC.
entails. What's up?
The guy's going to VC.
Oh, he ran from VC.